Hi everyone, this is Mr. Nunley, your English teacher. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today's video is a recap of Act 1 of Romeo and Juliet. I've provided other resources for you guys that I hope are helpful. This video is again going to help you hopefully with the quiz I'm about to post. The quiz will be 10 questions on Act 1 only, all multiple choice. This video is optional, you don't have to listen, but hopefully it helps with that quiz. So I'm going to start off with the prologue. The prologue is spoken by the chorus. The chorus is not a character in the play, but they basically introduce the audience to what's going to happen in the play. So here we go. Two households, both alike in dignity. What does that mean? There's two families in Romeo and Juliet, the Montagues and the Capulets. They're very similar. They're both rich, they're both upper class. In fair Verona, where we lay our scene. The scene of Romeo and Juliet is Verona, Italy, and it's fair. Fair means beautiful. From ancient grudge, break to new mutiny. So there's obviously a feud between the Capulets and the Montagues. This feud is not new. It's ancient. It's been going on for generations. We don't really know why. They never tell us, but it's been going on a long time. Where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. The streets are polluted with blood. People have blood on their hands due to the constant fighting. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes. Loins is the area in between your legs. That's where your mother gave birth to. So each of these families gave birth to one child. The Montagues had Romeo, the Capulets had Juliet. You would think these two children would be enemies, but due to fate and destiny, that's what star-crossed means, they somehow fall in love. We all know they take their life, unfortunately. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next page. So this feud continues to go on. Nothing will end it. But one thing does end it. Doth with their death bury their parents' strife. So the death of their two children finally made each family realize, you know what, enough is enough. There's been too much death. We need to end this feud. When Romeo and Juliet are dead, the feud is finally over. It says, now the 2 hours traffic of our stage, the which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. So the play would have taken roughly 2 hours. This audio tape is about 3 hours, so it's pretty accurate. It would have been about 2-3 hours. So that's basically the prologue. Okay, we'll move on to Act 1. So the play starts off in a public place. You have two Capulet servants. You got Samson and Gregory. They're armed with swords and bucklers, which are shields. So Samson and Gregory are talking. What are they talking about? They eventually get to the part where, again, they're Capulets. They start talking crap about the Montagues. They say, if a dog of the house of the Montagues moves me, I'll fight him. So what will they do if they see a Montague man? It says they'll basically take him to the wall, or his maid to the wall. Okay, moving on. Samson says, true, and therefore women being the weaker vessels and ever thrust the wall, therefore I will push Montague's men from the wall and thrust his maids to the wall. So basically what Samson is saying is, if a Montague man walks by and he has a woman, he's going to basically beat up the man and rape the woman. You can see this is crazy, but they have a feud, so they are crazy. They hate each other that much. As we move on, Samson says, 'Tis all one, I will show myself a tyrant. When I have fought with the men, I will be cruel with the maids, I will cut off their heads. So Samson says, after I fight the Montague men, I'll cut off the heads of their women after I rape them. Again, this is craziness, but they have this crazy feud going on, and that's why they feel this way. So Gregory's like, really? You're going to cut off the heads of women? And Samson says, yeah, I'll cut off their heads, or maybe their maiden heads. So the word maiden means woman, but it also means virgin. So when he says, I'm going to cut off their maiden heads, he's basically saying, I'm going to take their virginity by raping them. Again, very disgusting and sad, but that's how much these two families hate each other. Since this is really a disturbing topic of rape and violence, I think Shakespeare tries to lighten the mood in a sense, and he starts to use some sexual humor. So Gregory says, yeah, if I rape them, they'll feel it really well. So what is he basically doing? He's making a joke about his anatomy and how big it is. Samson says, oh yeah? Me they shall feel while I'm able to stand, and 'tis known I'm a pretty piece of flesh. So Samson's like, oh really, they'll feel you? Guess what, I'm even bigger. Hopefully you guys are picking up on what piece of that anatomy I'm talking about. But again, this is sexual humor. Shakespeare uses a lot of it. Gregory then says, 'tis well thou art not fish. If thou hadst been poor John. So Gregory's like, oh yeah, you think you're big? Really, I think you're a dried up piece of fish. So I want you to picture a steak for a minute, and then picture beef jerky. So beef jerky is basically a shriveled up version of a steak. So Gregory's like, oh really, Samson? I heard you're like a piece of beef jerky, small and shriveled. So I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about in terms of the part of the body. But again, Shakespeare adds this sexual humor to bring laughter and enjoyment to the beginning of the play. The sexual humor continues when the Montagues show up. Samson says, I'm going to take out my weapon, my naked weapon. So is he talking about his sword, or is he talking about his body part he was just discussing? So as the Montagues show up, the Capulets, we got Samson and Gregory. They're basically going to fight this Montague servant named Abraham. So how are they going to pick the fight? Samson says, nay, as they dare, I will bite my thumb at them, which is a disgrace to them if they bear it. So Samson starts the fight between the Capulet and Montague servants by biting his thumb. To bite your thumb was basically like flipping someone off during Shakespeare's time. So when Abraham, a Montague, walks past Samson, a Capulet, and he's biting his thumb at him, he's like, are you biting your thumb at me? And Samson's like, yeah, I'm biting my thumb. He's like, well, are you biting at me? He's like, yeah, I'm biting my thumb. So he's not really saying I'm biting my thumb at you, but yeah, I'm flipping you off. So again, he's just really trying to start something with the Montagues. All right, as we move on, they eventually get to the point where they're ready to fight. So it says they fight. Then all of a sudden Benvolio shows up. Benvolio is Romeo's cousin. He's a Montague. He says, part fools, put up your swords. You know not what you do. So Benvolio is really a peacemaker. Benvolio tries to create peace, and he tries to end the fight. Then it says, enter Tybalt. What art thou drawn among these heartless hinds? Turn thee, Benvolio, look upon thy death. So Benvolio's trying to bring the peace, but Tybalt's like, you know what? I want to fight you, Benvolio. So these two characters are what you call foils. Benvolio's peaceful, Tybalt's an aggressive hothead. They're opposites. So Tybalt calls out Benvolio. He's like, oh, you're really trying to be peaceful. Why do you have your sword out? Let's fight. So they start to fight. So now we got a big brawl. As you guys know, when there's fights, what happens? Crowds show up. So who shows up? The citizens. Okay, the citizens are all the rest of the people that aren't Montagues or Capulets. What are the citizens doing? Citizens are like, you know what? Let's get our weapons. Let's take down the Capulets. Let's take down the Montagues. They're bringing too much violence to our city. It's like gang violence in the city. If you're not part of the gang, you hate it because it makes your city violent and unsafe. Then we get Capulet and his wife show up. Capulet, this is Juliet's father. He's like, give me my sword, woman. And she's like, old man, don't take a step. She doesn't want him to fight. Montague shows up. This is Romeo's dad. He's like, I'm going to go fight. And his wife's like, you better not stir 1 foot to seek a foe. Like, man, you stay here. I don't want you fighting. Then we get the prince. The prince, his name is Prince Aeschylus. He's the ruler of the entire city of Verona. He's in charge. So when he shows up, he's pissed off. He's angry. He says, rebellious subjects, enemies of the peace, profaners of this neighbor-stained steel. Will they not hear? What, ho, you men, you beasts, that quench the fire of your pernicious rage with purple fountains issuing from your veins? On pain of torture from these bloody hands, throw your mistempered weapons to the ground, and hear the sentence of your moved prince. So the prince, again, is pissed off. He's like, you know what? There's purple fountains all on my street. What does that mean? There's blood spraying everywhere. And he's like, throw down your weapons. Listen to what I have to say. So this is what the prince says. 3 civil brawls bred on an airy word by thee, old Capulet and Montague. So there's been 3 huge fights recently, and the prince is done with it. If these people continue to fight, it makes him look weak. So now he's going to throw down the punishment, and it's going to be severe. He says, have thrice disturbed the quiet of our streets and made Verona's ancient citizens cast by their grave beseeming ornaments to wield old partisans in hands as old cankered with peace to part your cankered hate. If you ever disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of the peace. For this time all the rest depart away. So the prince just threatened the Montagues and Capulets. He said, if you ever fight again in my streets of Verona, I will kill you. I don't care who you are. Your penalty is death. So most of you guys would say, you know what? That's a really harsh penalty. I'm not going to fight anymore. So basically, that fight scene is now over. Okay, then you got Montague, Romeo's dad, trying to figure out what was happening. Benvolio's like, hey, uncle, I was trying to stop the fight, which is true. And then Juliet's mom is like, where's Romeo? Because Romeo wasn't at the fight. And Benvolio was like, oh, I saw Romeo. He was out in the woods earlier this morning. He's like, I was trying to follow him, but he was basically like trying to stay away from me, so I just left him alone. And then Lord Montague, Romeo's dad, is like, many a morning hath he been seen there, with tears augmenting the fresh morning's dew, adding to clouds more clouds with his deep sighs. But all soon as the all-cheering sun should be the farthest east, begin to draw the shady curtains from Aurora's bed, away from light steals home my heavy son, and private in his chamber he pens himself, shuts up his windows, locks fair daylight out. So Lord Montague, Romeo's dad, is like, you know what? Romeo's been there hiding in the woods often lately, and I seem to see him crying a lot. I don't know why he's so upset. And in fact, when we're at home and I try to talk to my son, he locks himself in his chamber or his room, and he shuts all the windows, and he locks out daylight. So he's basically locking himself in his room, and it's dark. And makes himself an artificial night. Black and portentous must this humor prove, unless good counsel may the cause remove. So again, Lord Montague's like, you know what? I tried to talk to my son. I notice he seems depressed, but he doesn't want to talk to me. He just locks himself in his room. He doesn't want to talk to me. So this is a 450-year-old story, and teenagers are still kind of the same today. A lot of times, if you got problems as a teenager, what do? You lock yourself in your room. Your parents want to talk to you. No, I don't want to talk to you. I'm going to go to sleep. Okay. Again, teenagers haven't changed much over the last 400 years. They don't want to share their problems with their parents all the time. They want to have privacy, and they lock themselves in their rooms. So Benvolio basically agrees, hey, uncle, I'm gonna find out what's wrong with my cousin Romeo. He's like, okay. So Romeo shows up, and Benvolio starts to talk to him. So Benvolio's trying to figure out, hey, cousin, what's wrong with you? Are you in love? And Romeo's like, nah, I'm out of love. So what does that mean? I'm out of her favor where I am in love. So Romeo's in love. Unfortunately for him, the girl he loves doesn't love him back. Romeo goes on basically how love is torturing him. He says, oh, brawling love, like love is a fight. Oh, loving hate. These are called oxymorons or opposites. So Romeo's having a really difficult time with love. Like, he hates love at this moment. Why? Because the girl he loves doesn't love him back. He goes on with the oxymorons, feather of lead, bright smoke, sick health, cold fire, opposites. That's kind of how love is, though. Love can be cold, and love could be fire. Love can make you sick, and love can make you feel healthy. Love can make you float like a feather or make you sink like lead. So, again, Benvolio's trying to figure out why Romeo's upset. Is because Romeo loves a girl, she doesn't love him back. So who is this girl that he loves? This girl that he loves, her name is Rosaline. It never tells us at this point. So let's see. So it says, a right good markman, and she's fair I love. So Benvolio's trying to find out about the girl Romeo loves, and he finds out that she's fair. Earlier I told you fair means beautiful, so Romeo's in love with a beautiful young woman. Again, her name is Rosaline. So Benvolio's like, I'm probably going to have to pause this movie because I'm at my 15-minute max. I'll do another one soon.